went ahead and understood the changing trends of sales management. We did the third thing, which was the roles and duties of a sales manager. And finally, we went ahead and started understanding the selling process, because though you are being groomed to become the sales managers or the leaders of tomorrow, but it's important to understand the basics, because unless and until you work at grassroots level, you cannot climb the ladder. We understood the selling process, we understood the life of a salesperson, and then we went ahead to understand sales organization, the different types of sales organizations, the life of a sales organization, and how the various things change in different phases of a sales organization. We understood workload method and the incremental method to understand how many people do I need in a sales organization. Once I have the people, I need to motivate them, and therefore we understood motivation. But we understood that it's not just motivation alone, which will help, because performance is a product of motivation and training. So we went ahead to understand the ACME process of training, which is to understand that why are we doing the training, what will we do in the training, how will we do the training, where, who will get the training, and finally, how will we evaluate the training. After understanding to take care of performance of the people, we were ready to understand sales territories. And once we understood sales territories, we went to the next step of sales quotas or the targets. Once the sales territories, now that we have a sales organization, we understood the performance, we had sales territories, we had sales quotas, we went ahead and understood compensation and what are the different types of compensation. At every stage, there were numerical problems given to you wherever it was possible. So for example, in trying to find out how many people we need, or understanding sales territory, or understanding sales quota, or understanding the compensation. All those problems are there on your Google Classroom, and I do hope you have solved it to help understand how to do it better. The last time we did a compensation problem in which there were 3 options in front of us, and we had to decide which one to choose. And we looked at it not just quantitatively, but also qualitatively. Now that we have finished the sales management, the next topic, according to your syllabus, that comes in is the distribution management. And what is distribution management? So let me share my slides with you. If you ask me what is distribution, well, distribution, according to me, is one of the most important functions of business, because the wonderful product that you have created with all its different attributes, the pricing that you have done, etc., is all useless unless and until the product reaches your customer. Because it's only when the product will reach the customer, the product or service will reach the customer, that he or she will use it, he or she will pay for it, and that's where your revenue will come. If the customer cannot use your product, then your product may be the best, but it's useless, because it has not been able to fulfill the role of business, which is to provide satisfaction to the customer and at the same time help in the growth of the company through revenue, through profit. And how does this all happen? It happens with the help of the distribution. So how do we define distribution? In very simple language, it refers to the set of interdependent organizations involved in the process of making a product or service available for use or consumption. And when I say interdependent, that's a big word, because it means that in the times of today, every organization in the distribution channel is dependent on each other. The manufacturer is as much dependent on the channel members as the channel members are on the manufacturer. And I think if the role of distribution ever came in limelight, it was in the last few months when COVID happened, when we realized as common people that how important distribution is. When everyday products were not easily available, when suddenly to get a product which we thought that all I had to do was just cross the road and it's easily available, sometimes we had to wait for days. It was because distribution channels had been affected. And therefore, if you Go back to the definition of marketing. Marketing is understanding the needs of the customer profitably. That can only happen if your product or service is distributed so that it reaches the customer at the right time, at the right place, at the right price. This is from, again, one of the books, and it's just a summation on the importance of distribution. And it says, it represents a significant corporate commitment to large number of independent companies whose business is distribution and to the particular markets they serve. Let me help you understand that when I'm talking about distribution, what is the level at which we are talking about. So I have just some annual reports. The first annual report I have is of Hindustan Unilever. I hope this is visible to you, and if it is not, just unmute yourself and let me know right now. According to me, I am sharing the Hindustan Unilever 2019-20 annual report with you. It is, let me see if I can increase the, yeah. Okay, look at this. It says that they distribute across 8 million plus outlets across India. India is a huge country. And over here, distribution is a challenge. It is not, and therefore what works in another country may or may not work in India. When we are talking about 8 million plus outlets across India, obviously today it is possible with the help of technology. And when we talk about distribution management, technology today is a very, very important player. You cannot excel in distribution management in India or any other country unless and until you are using the required technology properly. Similarly, if I go to, I wish you would read this annual report. This will give you an idea of what we are talking about in distribution. So for example, this annual report further goes on to talk about the role of Shakti Amma, and we will talk about it. Similarly, Dabur. If I look at Dabur, give me a minute. Let me see if I can increase the size. Yeah. Again, look at Dabur. What are they talking about? They say, oh, I missed the page. Give me a minute. So again, same. See, it says we also continue to expand our distribution footprint, particularly in the hinterland, taking up our village coverage to 52,000 villages by the end of March 2020. And I'm only talking about the rural side of India. Again, it says our direct retail coverage has also increased from 1.1 million outlets to 1.2 million outlets during the year. Again, I would request you to go through these annual reports to understand that how businesses run, what is the role of distribution, and how the recent pandemic has affected everyone. But the whole idea, as I say, when you're looking at such huge numbers, obviously it is not possible unless and until there is a huge role of technology which plays over there. And yet, when I talk about distribution in India, I feel very proud talking about distribution, the innovative practices of distribution in India as an Indian, because it's only in India that we have been able to come up with these unique practices, whether be it the Arvind Eye Care, be it the eChaupal, or be it the Shakti Amma of the Unilever. I will be showing you videos of these three things at the end. However, before that, let us understand distribution in more detail. Any doubt at any point of time, as I keep saying, just unmute yourself and let me know. So we just had a look at the annual reports of Dabur and Unilever, and I would request you to go through those annual reports to understand it better. Why do we need distribution? I mean, the question, yes, obviously, as I said, so that the product reaches the customer at the right time and at the right place, but let's understand it in more detail, that why do we need distribution? Well, we need distribution because of spatial discrepancy, to bridge the spatial discrepancy. And what do we mean by bridging the spatial discrepancy? So Tata Motors may be making its car in Pune, however, I may be a customer in Chandigarh and I want Tata Motors car. Thank God distribution channel is there because it helps in bridging the spatial discrepancy, and therefore the car manufactured in Pune can be delivered to the customer sitting in Chandigarh or Chennai or Kolkata or somewhere else. Temporal discrepancy. Now, Tata Motors may be manufacturing the car, not maybe, the manufacturing happens, the factory is open every day. It's not that they get the orders and then they start manufacturing. I mean, the factory has to function every day. However, I, the customer, may decide to, a lot of customers may decide to buy the car during these times, that is Navratri, because it is considered auspicious, or they may try to buy they may like to buy the car on Dhanteras, which comes before Diwali, which again in our culture is considered an auspicious day. Thank God, temporal discrepancy is there, which means that it allows the car to be delivered to the customer when he or she wants. Need for breaking the bulk. Unilever may be making tons and tons of Surf Excel in their factory. However, as a customer, I only need most probably 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, or whatever, or 500 grams. Thank God, again, distribution channel is there because it allows me, the customer, to buy in the quantity that I need. Need for assortment. Now, what is need for assortment? When I'm talking about need for assortment, I mean that I may want to buy a Dabur toothpaste, let's assume. I may want to buy a Unilever soap. I may want to buy Colgate and Palmolive products. So I want to buy these 3 products. Thank God the distribution channel is there because it allows the retailer to have all the products under one roof. Can you imagine if Dabur had to set up its own retail outlet, Unilever had to set up its own retail outlet, Colgate and Palmolive had to set up its own retail outlet? That would be so cumbersome, not just for the company, but even for me as a customer. Today, I can just walk into most probably the Rabji or Big Bazaar or Star Bazaar or my normal retail outlet and buy products of different brands all under one roof. At the end of the day, it helps in economic efficiency. And what do I mean by economic efficiency? So very, very simple way of putting it, let there be 3 manufacturers and let there be only 3 customers. If every manufacturer had to reach the customer on its own, look at the jigsaw puzzle that we are creating over here. And this is when I have taken an absolutely simple version. Thank God distribution channels are there because this helps in a process which is simple to understand, easy to implement, and yet at the same time economically feasible and also convenient, not just for the manufacturers, but also for the customer. I hope I'm making sense. At any point of time, if you don't understand, do let me know. So if you have understood why do we need distribution channel, which I said is for spatial discrepancy, temporal discrepancy, need for breaking the bulk, need for assortment, and finally economic efficiency. The next thing that comes is, so at the end of it all, what happens? I mean, how does it help these distribution channels? The first and foremost, it helps in the physical flow. So the product moves from the supplier to the warehouse by transport and warehouse. So this is transport and warehouse to the manufacturer, and so there it goes. Then again from transport and warehouse, it goes to the dealer, the different dealers, and finally to the customer. So it helps in the physical flow. If distribution channels were not there, the physical flow of the goods would not happen. It also helps in the title flow. And maybe you would question what is the difference between physical flow and title flow. A physical flow may or may not make you the owner of the product. So for example, in this, the transporter and warehouse is not the owner of the product. While what does title flow means? Title flow means that I become the owner of the product. Why is it important? It's extremely important because as long as things are going on fine, it's absolutely no problem. But suppose there is some accident and the goods are lost. I'm just giving you one example. Who will get the insurance? The insurance comes to the owner. Who is the owner? And therefore, while physical flow is just the movement of the product or service, title flow helps us to know who is the owner of the product. At the end of it, I, the customer, get the title. Yes, channel flows, channel functions help in the payment flow, the most important flow, most probably, and the only flow which is in the reverse direction. So while physical flow, title flow are in the forward direction, payment flow is in the reverse direction, and this helps us in getting revenue. You just ignore the last promotion flow, and finally, in fact, let me remove it so that there is no confusion. And finally, the information flow. Information flow is a two-way flow. So it goes both in the forward direction as well as in the backward direction, because while it's important that the information flows from the manufacturer to the customer, it is equally important that the information also flows from the customer to the manufacturer. It's only when information happens both ways that we are able to get a product which a customer needs. So why do we need distribution channels? We need distribution channels to bridge the spatial discrepancy, temporal discrepancy, need for making the bulk, need for assortment, economic efficiency. And all this results in physical flow, title flow, payment flow, and information flow. Payment flow is the only flow which goes in the backward direction, while information flow goes in both the directions. It would help if you make these flows yourself, because that's what will be expected out of you to understand that how does it work. And finally, what it results in form utility. That means I, the customer, get the product in the form I need. I get it at the time I need. I get it at the place I need, and I am the owner of the product. So all these discrepancies and finally the flows result in the customer having the product in the form I need. So if I need 1 kg, I get 1 kg at the time I need. If I need it tomorrow, I can get it tomorrow at the place I need. If I want it delivered to my office, or if I want it, whatever, whichever place, city you are in, at the place I need. And finally, yes, I am the owner of the product. Take a second, let me know if there's anything which you don't understand. I count till 10, unmute yourself if you don't know anything before I proceed on to the next topic. So if you've understood whatever I've spoken up till now, that is the various discrepancies, then the flows and what it results into. This is just a graph which I have taken from the book from the marketing book. And very interesting if you look at it. Look at the last row. You have done it. All the other rows have been taught to you. Now, when finally you are in the 5th semester, you must be well familiar with all the other rows. Let's look at the last row. So every product, as it says, it goes through introduction, growth, maturity, decline, PLC, which you have been taught at different levels. What happens when a product is in the introduction phase? So let's go back to the mobiles, which were launched in India way back in late 1990s. It's probably 95, 96, or was it 97, 98? But yes, I mean, in the late 90s. At that point of time, the sales, as we said, were low because it was only for a certain elite customers. It was extremely expensive. And the mobile phone, if you remember, was a very, very basic product. It was a big, black, ugly looking box, and yet your status symbol went up by a few points if you had that big, black, ugly looking box with you. Where was it available? It was available only in very selective outlets. Why? Because the number of people who could afford to have the service was very limited, and it did not make sense to make it as a mass product, which means have many distribution channels. So it was only available at selective distribution. However, as the curve went higher and more people started using the product also changed. From that basic product, it started adding more features into it, and also the distribution. It was available at far more outlets than what it was way back in 96, 97. Look at today. Everyone has a mobile phone. Maybe have more than one, have 2, 3 mobile phones. And what has happened to the product? Oh my God, the number of features that are there in the product, but more important, the distribution. It is so easy to buy a mobile phone today. You can walk into a shop, you can buy it online. You don't have to really struggle to think, oh, how do I find a mobile phone? What you have to struggle most probably is to decide from where do I buy, because you have so many options in front of you. So just see how everything is linked, what you most probably studied in the second semester, way back 2 years. All that marketing culminates when we are talking about distribution and how it is affected. There can be, as I said, various levels of distribution. So it can be today, it is extremely important, and especially COVID has shown us that you cannot have only one level of distribution. Every company, every organization today, including the education industry, is looking at more than one way of distribution today. So maybe still a year back, there were only few companies which were experimenting with different types of distribution channel, but today everyone has more than one way to reach to the customer. Obviously, I mean, 0 level means when you are directly reaching the customer. 1 level means when there is one channel member between you. 2, when there are more than, so you don't just have a wholesaler, you have a wholesaler and a distributor. And 3 level means when you have the number of channel members that you have between the manufacturer and the final customer. Needless to mention, more the number of channel members between the manufacturer and the customer, more does your price increase, because obviously everyone needs to earn, everyone needs to be paid. So more the number of channel members that you have between the manufacturer and the final customer, more pricey your product is. Ideally, most probably it should be 0 level, but practically it is not always possible. In fact, it is extremely difficult, and therefore we always have levels, but our endeavor is always to reduce and have it only at an optimum level and not really increase it too much. At this point of time, again, most probably let me take a break and come back to you and understand if there's anything that you haven't understood. Are we clear with whatever we have spoken till now? Anyone? 5 seconds. Okay, thanks, Saloni, for the reply. As I said, when I talk about distribution in India, I, as an Indian, feel extremely proud, because if there has been innovation in distribution, it's been in India, and amazing. For those of you who've studied from me before, maybe you must have seen these videos. For those who haven't, you should. And the first innovation that I talk about is Shakti Amma. It's been there for more than 10, 15 years now. And if you go through the annual report of Unilever, you will find the numbers that they are talking about. What is Shakti Amma? Shakti Amma is a walking, talking retailer. Walking, talking retailer, we thought that retailer, what is a retailer? Retailer is the last point of sale of goods to the customer. So the goods reach the customer by, the last point is the retailer. If you look around, so the Raji is a retailer, Star Bazaar is a retailer, Big Bazaar is a retailer, and most probably we always thought that retailer is that brick and mortar store. However, Unilever was facing a huge problem in the rural villages, and we must understand that my country still resides in rural areas. Majority of our population is still in the rural part of the country, and that's where the volume resides. Those people also have needs, and they also need these products. However, reaching out to them was extremely difficult for various reasons. And one of the reasons was also that setting up a brick and mortar store over there wasn't that easy. Why? Because the returns that you got did not justify setting up of the brick and mortar store. Not only that, the villages were scattered, and therefore people wouldn't really come to where to set up the brick and mortar store was also a problem. What did Unilever do? Who has said that retailer has to be a brick and mortar store? You and I. Redefine. Retailer is the last person from whom the customer buys. It need not be a brick and mortar store. It can be a walking, talking person also, and that's what they did. They introduced Shakti Amma, the walking, talking retailer who went from door to door in the villages to sell the product, and I'll explain it more when I show you the video. Similarly, Arvind Eye Care, again, a great innovation, and the way they are taking care of the blindness in our country, the way they are distributing their services, again, amazing. So for those of you who don't know, again, I'll show you the film, what did Arvind Eye Care do? So ideally, when we are not well, what do? We go to the doctor, which means we go to the clinic or we go to the hospital. Now, that means that only so many people can come to the clinic or the hospital because there is a limitation of space. And also, it's not easy setting up a clinic or a hospital. It requires a huge investment and also limits the number of people that can come. So in a clinic, if 50 people can come, then only 50 can come. I mean, you can't get 75 people out there. Arvind thought up of a beautiful plan, and they said, and also, most of the people who go to the clinic or the hospital, not all are very, very ill. I mean, in the sense that most of the illness, in fact, is something which is not major. It's minor and can be treated easily. They said, why does the customer have to come to the hospital or the clinic? Why? It's a problem for the customer. And also, I mean, it's a limitation because only so many customers, so many patients can come. And they started distributing their service by setting up camps in rural India. Those camps, the villagers, they went over there, and all the minor illnesses related to the eyesight were taken care over there. It was so, who was coming to the hospital? Only patients with major illness. Not only that, they used technology so beautifully that sitting in that camp, they could, and again, doctors are very expensive people. What if doctors had to go to every camp? So the doctor used to be in the main hospital, and in the camps, using technologies, the customer, obviously with the help of paramedics, could coordinate with the doctor, see the doctor, talk to the doctor, and get the prescription or the medicine. What did it do? It reduced the cost. But did it reduce the number of customers? No. In fact, it improved the access of the service to far more customers than was possible with the brick and mortar store. Not only that, I mean, Arvind Also, Aravind Eye Hospital also came up with a new form of operation in which they do cataract operations, where the number of operations conducted by Aravind is far more than the national average. The third example that I will show you by the video is of each of us. So maybe at this point of time, let me stop talking and let me share those videos with you and talk with you and explain while going through the videos.